know, they're designed for, or at least, well, it didn't matter in when I was a youth. I didn't care. In fact, I used to drive them on the highway with the roof down in like 90-degree weather or something like that. And me being probably of more fair-skinned would end up looking like a lobster. I'm sure I'll end up paying for that later in life. Haven't yet, but I'm sure eventually it's bound to come. But the TR6 had a tan interior, so you didn't, it was hot, but you didn't fry as badly as if you had the ever-popular black interior in those things. So, but we went up and saw the eclipse on Monday, along with the 55 million other people. We had Friday booked a room in Woodstock, or North Woodstock, New Hampshire, which was about probably about 25 miles from the total zone. And that was where we just figured we would spend the night. But, you know, the original intent was to try to get to the total zone. But after taking that trip to that area of New Hampshire from the Cape should take about 3.5 hours on good conditions. At the 5-hour mark, we were about 2 miles from the exit where the hotel was, so we were about 25 miles or so from the 100% zone, and we tapped out at that point and went to the hotel and had a couple of beers, you know, outside, and watched the eclipse with a whole lot of other people who also did the same thing and tapped out at about the same time. So I think we were in the 99.7% totality, so we pretty much got the full experience except for a tiny little sliver in the lower, I'm going to call it the lower left corner. It would have been the southeast corner of the sun, I suppose, if you were kind of looking, you know, north, south, east, west, quote unquote. So, but it's funny, a couple battled their way all the way to Lancaster, which in New Hampshire, which was in the total zone, and they said there was a little tiny sliver on it that as well. So I'm thinking that you have to really be directly over the thing in the center of, quote, the total zone to get the, quote, total eclipse, quote unquote, but who knows. It was a lot of fun anyway. So that's what we've been up to. WA3VJB, KB1VWC. Hopefully you still get a copy on 40 watts.
Yeah, you're doing fine. KB1VWC, WA3VJB. Good conditions. Yeah, I wondered about the path of totality, how it's defined. It's not a square wave, so you must have been in the tolerance zone. Let's call it totality. Let's see, these hotels, yeah, these benefit, yeah, this road, yeah, this benefits. And it's a little bit calculating. Yeah, I've seen some good aerial photographs, too. Guy I used to work with at the AP has a Cessna 172, and he went up and stayed as best he could in the path of totality west, I guess above Texas, and did some photography, which was pretty cool because he could look down and see the shadow, and he could look up and see the eclipse itself from an altitude of, I guess, 3,000, maybe 4,000 feet. So that was pretty cool. And I think I don't know, there were a couple of radio experiments supposedly. I was going to come out here and see if 40 meters behave differently. I did wind up talking with George, WB2HJK, at night on 7290 with an exceptionally strong signal, and I just wondered if things had been stirred up to some extent that caused his signal to be as much as 20 over 9. It's like, whoa, is this George or is this an AI George? Because but there he was. I even made a recording of it as proof with the signal bar reading. Yeah, see, you can be 20 over 9 too. Just count on a solar eclipse or something to disturb propagation. I saw the one in Virginia Beach in 1970. It was totality as well. I think it was under 3 minutes, but it still counted. And I got up on the roof of my parents' house. I think it was a Saturday, perhaps a Sunday. They were out playing golf. And the reason I got up on the roof is that somebody had told me that I could best see the 360-degree twilight from up there instead of being blocked by other houses or the tree line. Everything's pretty flat in Virginia Beach anyway, but getting up there indeed had its advantage because you could see anywhere you looked what appeared to be sunrise or sunset, which was beyond the path of totality. That was pretty cool. And I remember the AM broadcast station starting to come in as if it were nighttime. Took my portable 8-band receiver up there with me on the roof. The birds all quietened down for the evening. And the wind, I don't remember the wind so much as the temperature dropping significantly. It was already a fairly warm day. I don't remember having a lot of winter coats on, even though it was March. And so it did chill down a little bit. So that was pretty cool, yeah. I was old enough to remember it. And very good on making your way there. Yeah, I had a, what they call a grade 0 blotch on my head from my days of riding around in what then was an Austin Healey in high school, wearing a visor rather than a hat. Visors were cool back then in the 70s. Of course, it did nothing to shield your head from the rays of the sun. So I had that removed before it turned into anything, and it was proof that, yeah, this stuff can damage your skin pretty much into the layers. Now, of course, I slather on the SPF 50 out in the boat or whatever. Yeah, TR6 with a tan interior. That must have been unusual, yeah. I thought of you the other day when I came across a posting on, I don't know, one of the Facebook pages about a Triumph Vitessa 2000. Ever heard of one of those? It's a TR3 with custom Italian bodywork. They only made about 500 of them from, I think, 1960 to 1962 when they ran out of TR3 body, or TR3 chassis. And they were, you know, commensurately expensive, but they looked good. The back end, you could see, was the antecedent to the TR4 or the TR250 for that matter. And the front end had this beautiful grille and headlight treatment that also foreshadowed the TR4. I've never seen one, but what a fascinating variation of a TR3, since I guess all the powertrain was just that. And they may also have done an independent rear suspension version of it. I forget. Some of the discussion talked about that, which again starts getting into the TR4A and so on. I wonder if you've ever seen one of those. KB1V WC WA3 VJB.
Yeah, WA3 VJB KB1V WC. It's not a Vitessa or a Vitesse. A Vitesse is a Herald, so a little sedan that had the GT6 engine in it. So it's actually a goes-like-hell little two-door. Most of them were convertibles, but I think they made some hardtops as well. I'm trying to think of what that one... I know the car you're talking about, and yes, I have seen one up at the British Invasion of Stowe up in Vermont in September. One year when I was there, there was one of those there. I can't remember the name. Vitessa is not right. It's something else there, Paul. But boy, for the life of me, I can't remember it. I thought it was, if I remember right, wasn't it a Doletti or something like that? It was designed after, or some woman out in California or something, the Triumph dealer or something like that, I think, drew it up. Doletti, I forget now. Boy, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. Anyway, boy, cameras. The next time, if I ever, have a chance to look at a total eclipse again, let me tell you, your phone camera cannot work, does not work, no matter what you do with the filtering and everything else. Apparently it just refuses to focus. And I do not have a fancy camera on my particular phone. However, the lovely Mrs. VWC has the iPhone Pro with all of the lenses and all the options and all the manual this and everything, and no matter what you did, you could not get a clear shot of the corona at all. So therefore you need a manual camera is what I'm saying. Maybe it's got a digital back on it, that would be fine, but something you actually could set on your own. And very interesting on using 120 roll film once again there, Paul. Out of curiosity, do you develop your own? That would be a good question to get answered, or do you take it someplace? Because, as you know, black and white is not super difficult to develop on your own and print if you're printing. But just out of curiosity. Yeah, the other interesting thing about the eclipse was the weird coloration of the twilight. To me, it looked very strange. It was not a normal twilight color. It was an altered state color. I guess that would be the best way to describe it. And the temperature definitely dropped from probably about 66 to in the high 40s. I'm guessing it really got cold for a couple of minutes there. And then, of course, the sun came back out and it warmed right back up, and the beer was flowing, so all was well. But really was a great experience. So yeah, check on the, God, I can't remember it. An Italian body essentially was what it was, an Italian bodied TR3. And yes, a Swallow Doretti, maybe that's what it was. Anyway, I don't remember. WA3VJB KB1VWC.
Yeah, I was quickly going to do an internet search. Google is your friend. I remember the 2000 being in the name. And you're right, the Vitesse was some other part of the rabbit hole that I wound up going down once I saw that beautiful Italian-bodied TR3. Really good looking. And of course, with only, 500 or 600 of them made, it's not like they're going to pop up on Bring a Trailer. And I'm happy with mine. That's not as if. But it was one I hadn't seen before. And it's like, okay, well, that's cool. Let me add to my my database in my head and see if I can be on the lookout for one of those. Some future Cars and Coffee event. No, I don't develop my own film, even though it is black and white. With two Labrador Retrievers, the fur and the dust would be counterindicating. Yeah, when we first moved out here, we had 3 cats, and I halfway imagined building a dark room until I realized 3 cats equals the same dander problem. Last time I had access to a dark room was in the dormitory at the University of Maryland. The basement had a fully equipped dark room. It was neglected. It had a print dryer. It had, the clothesline for the clips for your negatives. It had the tanks and everything else for 120 and 35. So I could have practiced and bought some chemicals and done it up. But I just didn't really get it together. It was too easy to send the stuff off, and it still is. Where high volume processing means fresh chemicals, gentle handling, and now the advent of instant scanning of your negatives to upload your handiwork or lack thereof, while they mail back to you the negatives in cut and sleeved fashion. And I recently sent off a roll of black and white Ilford, I think it was Ilford, that the photo finisher believes was expired. I beg to differ with them. I don't think I ran expired film, but what came back was this blotchy sort of streaked negative where the edges of the roll were underexposed and the center was useful, but it had an inconsistent emulsion on it. It looked like it was not developed in an evenly done fashion, as if the chemicals didn't distribute throughout the loading reels. But no, they said, we developed it fine. This was old film. I don't know about that. So I managed to capture the center of the images and some of the frames that were fine, and it certainly has an old look to it because it wasn't developed evenly. So today, with the Zeiss Iconta folding camera, I actually looked at the date, and yeah, it's a couple of years old, but it's been refrigerated the whole time, Steve. And you know how, especially black and white film, it's supposed to be able to withstand that pretty well. But I'll send this off to a different shop, and if I get the same results, I'll go apologize to the first place, because this may have come from the same pack as the other one that I sent off. And it's nothing so crucial, once in a lifetime eclipse shots or something like that. This is just the kids out in the woods. And I've been told that the way to handle that is that if it starts to get old or you have any suspicion of it being old, overexpose it. You know, rate it at, this is Ilford 400, for example. I'm shooting it at 200 so that I should get decent images all the way across. And we'll see how it goes from there. Interesting on the smartphones not being able to capture the eclipse. Wonder why that is. Because even on my fairly basic Galaxy smartphone, I have a manual setting where I can tell it to focus to infinity, and I can manually control the exposure. So I ought to be able to get both focus and exposure to have yielded an image of some kind. Yeah, but there's so many good ones out there. Why bother? I saw a friend of mine. What a stitch. He sat on his back deck and said that he used his iPhone with a couple of sheets of old car window tint that he found in the garage. And he took a couple of pictures, and here they are. They were obviously either AI generated or stolen from some website where there was a legitimate photographer. There's no way. I mean, he had the Corona. It was full frame exposure, no grain. And then the next shot, he had the ring, the diamond ring, where it started to emerge, and there's this little blob on the edge of the ring that's appearing. All this done on an eye. Oh, sure, I got you, Darren. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I don't think so. KB1VWC, WA3VJB.
Yeah, WA3VJB, KB1VWC. I can assure you that not only myself, my lovely wife, but probably about 20 other people in the collective, it would be a good word for it, the collective, everyone with your funky glasses on at this outdoor bar staring up at the sun, and everyone going, can you get a picture out of your phone? And everyone's like, no, can't get, no. It had something to do with the focusing. To me, it looked more like a focus problem. So you put the filter in front of the lens, obviously, and now, for whatever reason, the phone's algorithm or whatever it's trying to figure out how to focus, it cannot focus itself. So you end up with an orange blob, for lack of a better term. And no, there is no way to manually, or at least not to my knowledge, adjust anything on the as far as exposure and focusing, anything like that. There is no way that I'm aware of, at least not on mine anyway. Maybe you can download a third-party magic app and you can now manipulate the phone in some other way, but not that I know of. So yeah, it's funny. I remember my dad having Pan-X sheet film, so there you go, in the freezer for years. And I mean, it definitely was well past its prime date. But he used to take it out and use it, but he also developed his own as well. And I never remember him saying anything about, having a problem with the film or anything like that. But it was, my dad was into large format stuff, so he had a 4x5 speed graphic that he used to use for not only portraits, but for landscape photography and that kind of stuff. And he developed all his own, and oh God, we had our own little dark room in the basement as a kid, and we used to hang out with my dad down in there while he was developing, obviously. And he had his timer, his enlargement timer, was a part of a gun sight or a bomb sight out of some World War II surplus plane or something like that. So it had a mechanical timer that you could set, and you hit the button, and I just remember the whirring sound of the motor, whir, clock, and that would, shut the light off. So it had a set of relay contacts in it of some kind that he used. But yeah, we had the red light in the was probably like a bigger than a tomato soup can, but I don't exactly know how much bigger it was. And same thing, we had the yellow light, or the safety light, whatever you want to call it there. The secondary light after the prints had been developed and were in the fixing process or whatever. The 3 tank stages there. So yeah, I don't remember that. I do remember, however, them telling you years ago, I'm sure you remember this as well, having really nice shots of film in your 35mm camera, color film of some kind. And, the airport security saying, oh, no, just put that right through. You can put it right through the x-ray machine. And you'd be like, no, can you guys just inspect the camera? No, put it through the x-ray machine. You'd get home and the whole film would be erased, clean, nothing. So after that happening a couple times, I'm like, no way, buddy. Don't talk to me about how your x-ray machine is film safe and everything, because that is a lie. Anyway. I looked it up. It's called the Triumph Italia. A Triumph Italia was the TR3 based, looks kind of like a TR4 in the back. And the other one was in the 50s. It was called a Swallow Doretti, which was also based on, that was on a TR2 chassis, but essentially the same chassis, really and truly. Later ones, obviously, TR3s had disc brakes and stuff, but there really isn't a whole lot of difference in the chassis and drivetrain between a 2 and a 3, other than the front disc brakes on the 3. So look that one up as well. That's also a very attractive one that they didn't make very many of either. So Triumph supplied like the front suspension off of Heralds and Spitfires ended up on a lot of Lotuses as well. So Lotus was using their coil-over shock front end there that they used, kind of the whole space frame assembly Lotus was using, and then grafting their stuff onto it in a lot of their early cars. So you look at some of them at a car show and you go, yeah, I recognize that front end. I'll do one more here, Paul. I'm on the dinner duty tonight. The boss lady is off babysitting the grandson, so I am cooking some kind of rubbed pork tonight that I have decided to mix up my famous rib rub and put it on a couple of pork chops. What a waste. But anyway, it should taste good. WA3VJB, KB1VWC.
KB1VWC, WA3VJB. Oh, making me hungry. Yeah, I just got a text message from the house asking me, since it's 5 o'clock, are you drinking yet? Because, I have a cache of Brooklyn Stout here in honor of Ernie, BRM. And she would suspect that I've cracked one. But I'm conserving that stock. So where she says she's having some red wine tonight, I said, me too. So I'll wrap it up here with you, and we'll get to our respective functions this evening. Rubbed pork. That sounds a little Nat Lamp fraternity type of a joke there. I won't go anywhere with it, but yeah, I know that should be good. We have those pork loins that we cook on the grill, Steve. You probably have had those too. And they come in various flavors. There's a blackened pork loin, teriyaki, there's southern style barbecue, and they're quite good. So I don't know what we're having. Last night we had a nice piece of fish. I don't know what we're having this evening, so we'll see. Yeah, thanks for the Triumph Italia. I guess I've associated the numerical 2000 with the Vitesse and not correctly with the Triumph Italia. But yeah, good looking car. I think I may have mentioned to you there's a 91-year-old guy who's a patron of the same shop where I get my car worked on. And he's got two Datsun Roadsters, both the 1600 and the 2000. And at 91, he can't even get from the house to the garage anymore without a walker. So my shop says, hey, you want to come look at these things and perhaps help us rehome them for the guy? I don't think that means barn find kind of pricing, but it does mean find a suitable rehome for it. So if you ever had a desire to get into a 2-liter overhead cam Datsun, they're both apparently running and in pretty good shape. When I go look at them, I shall see. Ordinarily, it's somebody who wants to trade up from the one they've got at this point when you're rehoming them within the family of people who like the Datsun Fairlady. Because it takes a certain amount of determination to find, care, and feed for these cars 50-some-odd years later. The parts availability is not nearly as good as for the Triumph MG Austin Healey line, because there weren't that many of them to begin with. And lo, these many years later, it's even more difficult. I've got a set of brand new fenders up in the rafters. I bought them 40 years ago. They're probably worth, $1,000 a piece now, and I paid hundreds a piece for them back then. Most of them are for a 69. There are slight differences in side marker holes, that sort of thing. And maybe one of these days I'll decide that I want to send them along to a good home. But it's a lot easier to find both fiberglass replacement parts and recrafted sheet metal parts for the Triumph Austin Healey types. Much easier time bringing those back. But that only makes it all the more alluring to have a Datsun Roadster, because people say, oh, haven't seen one of them in a few years. So, like I said, I'm happy. I don't want to go find a Triumph Italia, even though they have a certain appeal just because of their rarity. I've been down that path before with the Volvo 1800 ES. Had a 72 and a 73. But they had such an agricultural feel to them, Steve. That B20 engine might have been fine, but the car's heavy. And not the least bit sporting, but I was attracted by its rarity and its style. And spent too much money on it by the time I realized it wasn't a good fit. I had the Datsun the whole time, I should point out. So it was easy to compare one to the other. Anyway, I heard a zero just there. Maybe someone's going to help us round it out. Have a good evening. Have a good dinner. Thanks for appearing here on the frequency. I didn't know if anybody was on or not. Has Ernie declared his off season? Is he not going to be on here with us any longer? Seems kind of early. Maybe I'll bust him in a text and see for sure. Yeah, good weather we've got here helps keep me outdoors too. I'm surprised I'm on. KB1VWC, Cape Cod. Catch you later, WA3VJB.
Yeah, WA3VJB, KB1VWC. Yeah, 7-3's Paul. Oh boy, if I brought home another car, I might have to come and move in with you or something like that. I could probably take the boat down and live on the boat, but I do appreciate the offer. I really need to. I have several GT6s out back that are in restorable condition that I really need to attempt to restore at some point in time. My problem now with a lot of this stuff is, I was 6'3" at one point in time. I think I'm 6'1.5" now, so I'm definitely shrunk. But Triumph's never had the greatest driving position for tall people as far as I was concerned. There's not quite enough leg room. So now driving them long distances, more than a couple of hours or something like that, I end up crawling out of the cab looking like, a hermit crab crawling out of his shell or something to that effect. So that certainly is, it's starting. How's that? It's definitely starting. I don't know. I would, if I ever could find one, and this is in the ever could find one category, I always wanted a Toyota 2000 GT. I think it was from the late 60s, somewhere around there, the hard top little two-seat Toyota that they made. And I don't think they, if Datsun 2000s were rare, I think that 2000 GT is, that's definitely the hen's teeth kind of thing. And I always wanted to diddle with a Saab Sonnet as well, so I always wanted to play with one of those and see if that actually was a real car or not. Having driven like little Fiats and that kind of stuff, I know that those are not really real cars, so maybe a Alfa Romeo GTV or something like that for a little sedan. That one would be okay too. So see, I would need a whole barn or something. Who knows? And Ernie, yeah, he seems to have dropped off the face of the earth. It is pre-asparagus. The asparagus has not come out of the ground here at VWC headquarters, so therefore he is much earlier this year in his abandonment of ham radio. That's all I have to say. So bust his chops. We'll catch you later, Paul. Always a pleasure. V3VJB, KB1VWC.
I will. I'll specifically refer to that calendar date. Pre-asparagus. Yeah, the Sonnet, the V4, I think that was still a two-cycle. Yeah, that was interesting. If I had my druthers or I'd won the lottery this past week, the BMW 507 would have been a nice little convertible to tool around in. I would even accept a relatively modern 3.0 CSI, the coupe BMW. Very pretty car. And yeah, I'm aware of the 2000 GT. That's the one that appeared in one of the James Bond films. I don't know. I don't like the looks of it that much. The rarity is impressive, but it's got kind of bug eyes. You know, those oversized 7-inch headlights just look kind of peculiar, and the top doesn't go down either. You can have that one. Go look up a BMW 507. That'll be the one you might want. The top goes down besides. Just get your SPF 50 out. Avoid the melanoma. I'll see you. KB1VWC, WA3VJB, now leaving the airwaves.